Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Daddy's Show.
So I got a couple of these plywood shelving units from a buddy of mine who was going to throw them away, and I've been using them here and there as projects. I took apart the larger sides that you see here, and I used them and cut them up into box lids. And these little shelves that I'm pulling apart here that you can see, I use them for little jigs and stuff. But this one was just taking up space in the garage, so I figured, you know what, let's take it apart and make it into some usable material. Now my wife had sent me a picture of a little bookshelf ladder that she had wanted, and I said, you know what, I could probably make that. And she graciously allowed me to make the attempt. So that's what this video is. What I'm doing here is cutting off to 8.5 inches, so I'll get a clean edge on one side, and then I'll cut it down to 8 inches on the other. I'm just looking for clean edges here because they've been rounded over with use and stuff. I like to show real-time speed as far as cutting and anything that's going to be dangerous, so that you understand the scale and the scope of the work. Later in the video I show some fast motion painting, but I didn't think there was anything wrong with doing that, and the video was already getting pretty long. What I'm doing now is cutting the plywood down to lengths to make the shelves, so they're kind of like open boxes. That's what they look like. Whenever you finish a cut with one of these chop saws, you should always let it slow down on its own and don't lift up the saw until the blade is stopped. That way you get the best, cleanest cut. What I'm doing here is I'm getting some clean edges off of these smaller pieces that are going to make up the side supports of the shelves that I'm building. So full disclosure, Microjig sent me a couple of these, these grippers, and I think they're great in certain applications. When you're looking at trying to do something wider like this, a regular push stick might make it wobble, but the wide surface of the gripper allows you to just really have tight control over it. Literally my least favorite part of any project is the sanding, but these pieces don't always come off the saw that clean, so they gotta be softened up a little bit. I got a couple of these cheapo sanders from Home Depot, and one was a random orbital sander and the other one was a palm sander, and you'll see that I used the palm sander later on. And I actually like the palm sander better, despite what Tim Sway says. I know he calls them useless, but I think it for getting into corners and for working with smaller pieces, the quarter sheet sanders are probably the best. I have found these corner clamps to be lifesavers on more than one occasion. Whenever I'm trying to butt up a couple of 90-degree pieces, they just work out really, really well. I recommend that you grab at least 2. I have 4 of them, and I got them off Craigslist as part of a clamp deal. Here you can see that I'm actually nailing in this plywood, and I'm doing it incorrectly. I watched a couple of videos today, John Hayes and John Peters, both showing how to use a nailer correctly, and I'm not. I get a couple of blowouts and I couldn't figure out why, and then I watched this video and I realized, wow, you're supposed to nail in perpendicular. So now I'm just putting down some glue, and I'll put in the side supports, and then hopefully I tack them in correctly. I don't even remember. So this is the palm sander that I was talking about earlier, and I think they all do, but it is hooked up to the shop vac, so that made it a little bit better. It comes with like this little plastic thing that punches holes through the sandpaper, and so it gives it some holes for the vacuum. If you saw that really quickly, that's what I was showing there. Here I'm vacuuming out all the sawdust that the sanding left, because I am going to be painting and I just want to clean it up. So before painting, what I'm going to do is take some of this drywall spackle and I'm going to put it into some of the larger plywood voids and some of the larger holes. And since this is going to be painted anyway, you're never going to see this, and it'll just make a nice even surface, all over. So this book ladder is going to lean against the wall. So here I just sort of eyeballed an angle that made sense to me, and then I drew it in, and I'll take it over to the chop saw, find the line. Again, this is just sort of an eyeball, and I will change the angle of the saw till it about matches what I was looking for. I'll lock it down, and then I cut it. Now these sides were made up of some oak S4S that was bought at Home Depot, and what I had here was leftover from a project, so according to Bill Lutz, that makes it reclaimed. Now this cheapo saw comes with this little hold down, and it's actually come in really handy. Here I measured out the 36 inches in height that I was looking for, clamped it down on the right. You can see there's a little swivel knob that holds the workpiece tight, and then I cut it down. Now I'm clamping both pieces together, and then that way they'll be exactly the same when I chop it down. So here you can see that I'm using that hold fast on this side. And I probably could have edited this down shorter. I'm just fiddling with it until I get it right. Hey, good job. And now I can almost just one hand, don't even have to hold anything. You just cut it and let the saw spin down on its own. And that's it. And I love using hand tools. I'm certainly getting into it, and this little block plane let me put a chamfer on all four corners of these boards, because it's me and my daughter's room, and she's one. And so in the middle of this I ruined my push stick, so here I'm just showing you how to quickly make a new one. I did this in fast motion because it's almost a joke that I left it in the video anyway. But that's sort of how easy it is to do a push stick. This design is not mine, it's John Hise's, and it just works really well. So here I'm taking a cutoff piece that I used at the very beginning that has the cut angle, and now I can just move the saw to 90 degrees, which I've already done, butt the side rail to it, and then chop. So now that angle is going to be held right up till the top of the rail, and when it leans up against the wall, it'll be flush with the wall. Here I'm gluing on some tiny little slats that essentially the box shelves will rest against. And I just use glue and clamp it on there. And that's what I did for all of them, even though I'm not showing it. Figured it'd be kind of boring to show that. So then I put a little bit of glue. I didn't really want to use too many fasteners in this. This is basically all glue. I put glue there, I put it on the sides. And genius filmographer that I am, you can't even see what I'm doing on the left side, but rest assured it's the same as what you just saw on the right. You can see I'm just trying to find the end. I'm just feeling with my fingers, and then I just clamp it in tight. And here's some of that fast motion that I was talking about. That's going to be the rest of it. This is me priming the shelves, and this is so incredibly boring to even watch. You can only imagine what it was like to do it. I don't like painting, but this was a painted project, so here we go. And I used quite a bit of primer. I did 2 coats of primer just because I didn't want to see any wood grain coming through. Let me clarify, my wife did not want to see any wood grain coming through. And what I'm doing here is mixing up a new color, a much lighter pink than what I already had. Just to show, I mean, you can mix your own colors anytime as long as you're using, you know, the same type of paint. This is just a regular water-based latex paint, and I wanted a much lighter pink, so mix the pink with the white, and here we go. Now what I'm doing here is masking off the shelf portions, because those were to remain white. I didn't show you that I painted it white. I just showed you the primer, but it's the same thing. And now I'm going to town with the pink on the side rails. I did 2 coats of everything. I did 2 coats of primer, 2 coats of white on the shelves, and 2 coats of pink for the side rails. And now I'm demasking. And I was really happy with how it came out, and even more importantly, my wife was happy with how it came out. And that's basically all she wrote. You see my daughter here enjoying it in her room. It's got all the little stuff on there. So I'd appreciate it if you guys like the video, subscribe to my channel, and check me out on Instagram @PhilPinsky.